Comfort, comfort my people. After the tears and the flames of Tisha B'Av, sort of how to be comforted and go on with our lives. By the way, it's also, today is a holiday. We didn't realize it. I didn't realize it when I scheduled this, but now this morning we didn't say Tachnan and Shul. It's the 15th day of Av, Tu B'Av. It's the holiday of Shidduchim, of marriages, and hopefully in the end I'll be able to be enough on schedule. I'll have a few minutes to connect this to the theme of Tu B'Av also, and not just talk about Nechama. The 3 weeks preceding Tisha B'Av are a time of mourning. Puraniyos, we call it, tragedies. And the 7 weeks following Tisha B'Av are called the Shiva de Nechemta, the 7 weeks of comfort. So we really have to wrap our heads around what it is exactly that comfort means. Just to begin with, throughout the Torah you'll find that the word Nun Ches Mem, Nechama, actually means 2 different things. On the one hand, it means to comfort, right? Nichum Avelim. We have a mitzvah. One of the mitzvahs is to comfort the mourners. And the word comfort is not. Some people use the word consolation in translation, but we understand what the inference is in comforting, in what comfort should mean. But what's surprising is the other use of the word comfort. And throughout the Torah, you also find the word nechama used as helping someone travel, to lead them. In the desert, Hashem He led us in the desert. Lan choisam, the clouds were used, lan chosem haderech, to lead them on their journey. When they leave Egypt, it says, lo nocham derech eretz plishtim. Hashem didn't lead them by way of the Philistines. We have it in Mizmor David, Psalm 23, the capital, the 23rd chapter of Tehillim. It says over there you actually have all 3 uses of the word nechama, sort of comfort. Right? The root of the word comfort, the first time in the Torah, is about the flood. It says that Noach is going to be the one to comfort us from all this evil and this suffering of the flood. And that's why his name was Noach, because Noach is to calm, to place down, to Noach is named Noach because Ze Yenachamenu. This one will comfort us. Now you know a little background of the different meanings of Nechama. In Mizmor David, it says, Hashem roi lo echsa, right? Everyone knows that song. Hashem, Lord is my shepherd, right? Al mein menuchos yinahaleni. Hashem will lead us by still waters, resting waters, menuchos. The same word as Noach, to be nach, to calm. But then it says, Yancheni b'maglei tzedek. Lead me on the proper paths, the paths of justice. So there you have the word nechama as leading me. And then in the end it says, Shiftecha u'mishantecha, your rod and your staff, heima yenachamuni. They will both comfort me. So throughout the Torah we find different meanings of the word nechama. Here in this chapter you find them both right next to each other, and also in the Torah you find the same thing. King David wasn't the first one to juxtapose the 2 types of nechama, leading and comforting. By the pasuk I told you earlier that that Hashem didn't lead them by way of the Philistines. Lo yinacham derech eretz plishtim ki karafu pen yinachem ha'am, lest the nation become calmed, they lose their fervor. So even over there, twice in the Torah, actually in the same verse, it uses 2 different meanings of the word comfort. So I'm just going to spend a moment on this. I wanted to talk about something, that I think will be very useful, but it's important to have this introduction. It's a difficult question because they're really opposites, right? Does it mean to put something at rest or to move them? To lead something in the desert, to help us travel, to help me move. Lan chosam haderech, to get them going on the road, on the path. While nechama means to be nach, is to rest. Right? Shabbos is a yom menucha, a day of rest. So does comfort mean to put at ease or to stir up? And that's a difficult question. The answer, I think, is very cool. And the answer is a total paradigm shift on the way we see life. You see, most people think that the goal of life is to be tranquil. Completion, Fulfillment is serenity, tranquility. In Hebrew, it's shalom, shalva, hashke, vavet, many words for stillness and calm. By still waters, Hashem will lead me. That is a beauty to menucha and calm. And the problem is that when sad things happen, when people die, so then the pain, it stirs up in me and it ruins my serenity and it makes me in turmoil. So the goal is to be menachim someone, is to put them back at ease, to calm them from their pain. So that's the normal way we conceive of it. And then it makes no sense. So why does the same word for calming mean to help me move? But if you switch it around 180 degrees, and you look at it from what I think the Torah's unique perspective is, it's the opposite. The goal of life is not stillness. Stillness is not completion or totality. Before we go through pain, when we're young and we're still complete and whole, everyone's on fire, we're vibrant, we're lit up. Children are, right? I always say this, children are the first ones up in any house in the morning. Before we've been beaten, before we've been hurt, before we've experienced failures or shame or guilt, everyone's on fire. That's the natural state. Joy isn't in stillness. Joy is in radiating, in beaming, in living large. The problem is, though, that when negative stuff happens and we experience pain, then we curl up into a little ball. The pains, the trauma of life debilitates us and causes us then to curl up into a fetal position and to recede from life. It's not that the natural state is to be still and pain slows me down. It's the opposite. The natural state is to be vibrant. And it's pain that, it's not that pain stirs you up from your calmness. It's that pain slows you down from your fire. So then nechama, comfort, is to get rid of that ball and chain that weighs you down. We're weighed down by our pain. Naturally, we're on fire, and pain makes me recede and curl up into a ball. If that's the case, then it makes total sense why these two words are the same. To comfort somebody is to get rid of the weightiness of their suffering, and to allow them to make further progress, allow them to live and to expand and to grow and to bring back their fire. So the word nechama doesn't mean to help someone become calm. The word nechama is to help someone get going again, to move on in their journey through their deserts, to move on in their lives from the thing that is slowing them down. That's 180 degrees from the way we understood nechama. And then it makes perfect sense why the word nechama means to comfort somebody and at the same time to get them moving. The fullest position to be in is expansive, to be vibrant. Okay. So in this context, it allows me to do what I want to do next. What I want to do now is I want to explain to you what comfort is. But in order to understand comfort, we really have to first probe to understand what the pain is. What is the suffering? What is the destruction about that we're going to come? You can't really help someone get over something unless you really know what it is they're getting over. So I want to use an idea I have that's a very, very powerful vehicle to understanding what it is, the churban, what it means, destruction. So the 42nd Psalm, right? It's one of the most beautiful Tehillim. There's so many songs written on these words. I'm sure everybody knows these words. Ka'ayol taroig alafike moyim, ke nafshi sarog elecha elokim. Just like a deer is yearning by the afike moyim, some water, we'll see, afike moyim, so too does my soul yearn for you, Hashem. Tzama nafshi leleikim, my soul thirsts for you, Hashem. Masai avai, when will you come and I will see the face of God? This is what we sing. This is the song. This is the words of King David. So I first have to tell you what afike moyim are. Most people, they have an assumption of what this psalm is saying. It's like sort of, that like a deer is lapping up the waters by this pure watering hole. So too do I bask in you, God. but that's not what it means, because we're not talking about any kind of watering hole or some spring of water or some babbling brook that is a deer, because it's the word afikim doesn't mean a sea or a river. Afikim, we say it in Shir Hamalos before we say the grace after meals, right? Afikim banegev, like afikim in the Negev. The Negev's a desert. So what? There's no pools or streams. What must afikim mean then, if they're in the Negev? So at this point, most people will assume that afikim are like an oasis, and then it's a whole different. Now it's a beautiful song, also a different beauty, not the beauty of a deer innocently lapping up waters, but it's sort of like the relief of finding an oasis in the desert. So too does my soul feel this sense of relief in discovering God. The problem is that, as beautiful as that is, and as true as it might be, they're all true, but that's not what King David was saying. Because the next words that I read you says, Masai Avai, when are you going to come and I'm going to see you? Which means that we're talking about something that's not here yet. It's not that you found an oasis and I'm drinking and I'm saying, when are you going to come, God? Like, we're saying that like a deer is yearning for this afikim, so too do I yearn for you, Hashem. So the water that the deer is yearning for isn't here yet. Masayavai, when is it going to come? So let me tell you what afikim are. If you ever gone on a trip of Israel, if you travel in the desert, you find these wadis. There are dried out riverbeds throughout the deserts in Israel. And you see them, they're just dried out, but there was a sign that there's water, used to be some water here. And what happens is a couple of times a year, maybe once a year, maybe once every few years, I don't know, but there's a big storm, there are big storms, and there are flash floods then. And because of the big storm in some far-flung edge of Israel, the waters then rush through the desert. So now picture the beauty of this imagery. Like a deer longingly waiting, yearning by the dried out riverbed. There's no water here yet. It's dried out. But he's sitting there like everyone's looking at him. What are you doing? Like, there's nothing here. And the deer is sitting there confident, fully longing. See, most people can never do this. Most people, when things aren't here, so you can't long for something that's not here. It's too risky. The pain, the suffering of frustrated dreams. How does one dream for something that's far away that may never come? It's very painful. But that's the emunah. The deer represents the trust in Hashem, the ability to let it all hang out, to make himself so raw, so vulnerable, to long for by a dried out riverbed, because he believes that it's going to come. So in Torah, at least for sure in King David's writings, in the Hillim, the ayol represents, he's the metaphor for the thing that is fully invested, willing to dream and to yearn for something that's not here. Really the hallmark of the Jewish people, the people who live, proclaim to the world the trust in Hashem. I even believe so far that this is what it means when we say we're the chosen people. We're the kingdom of priests. In what sense? Is that Hashem created the Gan, he created this garden. He wants us to dance, he wants the world to live in his garden. He wants all the Adams and Eves, all of us to be living joyfully in Hashem's garden. Instead, what happens is we all make mistakes. We eat from the trees of our lives and we feel ashamed and we go hide in the bushes. And we're not in our gardens. And we let the failures and the pains of our life break us and give up on the beauty of the world. So the Jew is like the deer. We are the lesson to the world that no, you can sit there and you can still long. Don't give up. Just keep on dreaming and keep on waiting. It's going to work. Come out of the bushes. And this is the entire Torah. The entire Torah is the story of Hashem trying to coax Adam and Eve back into the garden from his bushes. And mankind digs in deeper and deeper into the bushes. But we know that the deer digs in deeper and deeper by his water, his yet to arrive water. So this is what the ayol is, and this is what I believe life is. Life is yearning. In Torah, if you had to define Judaism in one sentence, the relationship to Hashem, when you live with the knowledge of Hashem, you live with this. the ability to admit to your hunger, admit to your dreams. You don't have to protect yourself with all those, modern words, whatever, eye rolls, laughing at scoffing at things. No, you don't have to be jaded. It's going to come. Hashem, I am waiting for you like the deer waits for the water. So if that's what living is, that vibrancy, so then we can start to understand what churban is. You know what destruction is in that sense? If this is what it means to be alive, so what does it mean to be destroyed? So listen to this terrible pasuk from Eicha in Lamentations that we just read. This is what we need to be comforted from. If you want to know what comfort is, it's a tall order. Because here's the description. V'yotza mibas tzion kol hadara. Describing the steady loss of all the beauty of the Jewish people and the destruction. And finally it reaches the verse that says, V'yotza mibas tzion kol hadara. And finally, all of its last splendor left the daughter of Zion. The daughter of Zion lost her last vestige of her splendor. Hadara, the Hidur. Yotza, it exited. The last of the splendor of the Jews exited. What was that? The Yotza mibas tzion kol hadara. Hayu sareha, its leaders, the princes of the Jews, the apple of our eye, the best of what we have. Hayu sareha ka'ayolim lo yimotzu mireh. The princes of the Jews were like deer that did not find their sustenance, waiting and waiting, and it didn't come. V'yelchu b'lo koyach lifnei roidev. Hayu ka'ayolim lo yimotzu mireh, like deer that did not find their sustenance. V'yelchu b'lo koyach, and they went with no strength before the pursuer. The ayol hung its head and turned from its dug-in waiting place. This is the Jewish people stop yearning. That's destruction. If the hallmark of the Jew is the yearning and the longing and the dreaming for Hashem, when are we destroyed? When do we lose all our splendor? When the deer leaves that dried out riverbed, when it's still dry, and he turns on his heel with his head hung, and he goes on. And then he has to say, water, dreams. This is what it means to be broken. It means to be broken is to lose all your dreams and the life that comes with it. I'll give you not that you need a different metaphor, but to make it real, very powerful. The best way to picture this is imagine a child, a boy who grows up and his parents separate, they get divorced. And the boy is waiting. His father told him, I'm going to come visit. I'm coming to see you. Don't worry, I'm moving out, but you're going to see me. I'm going to come. And the boy sits by his window waiting for his father. And the mother sees her boy yearning by the window, and she says to him, she knows the father, and she goes, your daddy's not coming. Like, what are you doing? Don't. You're just hurting yourself. And the boy says, stop, mommy. You just don't like daddy. You hate him. My daddy told me he's coming. I know he's coming. Stop. Don't say that. And he sits, and the mother can't even say anything because she doesn't trust her on this. So he sits there and she has to watch him get hurt. What's it like the day where the boy finally leaves the window? He doesn't live by the window anymore. That's when the ayol stops yearning. And that's the churban. So how do you comfort? How do you pick up the pieces from somebody who's been crushed? How do you get someone to long and to yearn again? This is a huge problem. And this is the secret of parshas, of these parshias. Nachamu, nachamu ami. So how do you comfort? How do you give someone back their spirit after they've been crushed like this? How do you get the deer to yearn again? So before we answer how we get someone to yearn again, I want to focus for a second on probably the most spoken about aspect of Nachamu, which is, we sort of set it up so it'll be easy to explain it. Why does it say comfort, comfort? What is the double expression? Comfort, comfort. So, in the context of those who have been following the Torah readings and reading Eicha, realizes this is part of a much larger question. the theme that unites all the different mourning periods and all the 3 weeks of this and the 7 weeks of consolation is this duality. Virtually everything spoken about in these portions is a double expression. Eini, my eyes, give forth water. May I, my insides, my guts are in pain. But my insides. Bachai sivke, I cry. And the source of it all, chet chata, we sinned. Throughout the entire story, and even when it talks about comfort, right? It says, Anochi, hu menachem. Hashem says, it is I, your comforter. There's a duality through all the pain and the ups and the downs. The sins that we did were double, the tears were double, the crying is double, the turmoil is double, the pain is double, the sorrow is double, and the recovery is double, and the joy will be double. So what's the duality? So the duality is that chet chata, we sinned. There's a duality in the sin, because it's not the sin itself that where it ends. I rebelled against Hashem. I did something wrong. Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve ate from the tree. Chata, they did a chet, but the story didn't end there. Because of their chet, they felt shame, and the shame causes them to go hide in the bushes. And that's the second chet. The whole purpose of the world was God created the world to give us joy. He wanted his children to experience his benevolence, that we should be sitting there and rolling in the grass, thinking and learning and loving and growing and giving and sharing. It's a world that's a gift, and all Hashem wanted was lehitiv, to give us joy. And instead we end up hiding. Why do we hide? Because we sinned. The big sin is the rest of our lives that is ruined from the first sin. The first sin pales in comparison to the greater sins that happen afterwards. That's the way of life. When we do things wrong, we feel shame, then we hide, and then everything becomes sins. The suffering is really from the chid chata, the sin that is the child of the first sin. So in the unraveling of this, we're going to have this duality in the unraveling. We started off as dreamers and then we failed. But the failure destroys your dreams because you don't believe they'll come true anymore. You know, I say this a lot. Children are scared of the dark. Adults are more scared of the light than kids are of the dark. We love the dark. The dark's an excuse. It's a hiding place. It's an excuse for my non-performance. It's an excuse for me to fail. But in the light, I'm scared. What's going to be? I have to answer to this. I have to perform. It's our dreams that scare us more than our fears. And this is a result of what we've done wrong, that we lost the belief in ourselves. And then the way we have to live life, what does it mean that Adam and Eve hide in the bushes? So everybody, that's where we're different. We're unique in our hiding. There's a million different bushes. Everybody has a different way to hide. But the common denominator of all hiding is that I'm somewhere not because I want to be there, because it's protecting me from facing the things that I long for, that I think will never happen to me because of what I did wrong. And that's the second sin. So we have to unravel these two levels of sin, the original failing and the guilt and shame that comes from it, which causes the second sin. We have to unravel both with our nachamu. So how do we do this? So I'll give you one more thought that'll I think it'll make it clear. There's a pasuk in a verse in Eicha that says, Kol mechabdera hizilua kiro ervasa. Those who used to honor her degraded her when they saw her that she was exposed. And the erva, the nakedness of what's it talking about? It's talking about, in the Medrash says, in the Beis HaMikdash, we know in the Holy of Holies, where the Kohen Gadol was no one was allowed to go there, only the high priest once a year, there was an ark. And the ark was with the tablets were on top of the ark, coming out of the cover with these two cherubs, Kruvim, two angels, a young boy and a young girl. And it says that when they were doing the will of Hashem, they would embrace their wings. They had wings and they would hold each other when the Jews were doing the will of Hashem. But when they were not doing the will of Hashem, they would turn away from each other. That's what the Gemara says. What happens is when Titus the Rasha came in to destroy the Beis Hamikdash, and he ripped off the curtain that separated the Holy of Holies, and he saw the two cherubs on top of the ark in an embrace, and they were holding each other. And he took it and he paraded it in the streets. This is what the holy Jews are. They're just like us, low lives. Look at this exposure. Look what they're showing you. This public intimacy. This is what they worship. Two people hugging in an embrace and naked. And that was the way they degraded the Jewish people, showing that you think they're so holy, they're so special, they're just like everybody else. But a side question on that is, that would be something to study. It gives us an insight really into what anti-Semitism is. It's a need to degrade the Jew. But that's not for now. But the question is an obvious question. Is if it says that when we weren't doing the will of Hashem, we were separate, they would separate the two kruvim. So then, shouldn't this be the destruction of the temple is the ultimate not doing the will of Hashem? How come they're hugging now? It doesn't make any sense. We said that when they're not doing the will of Hashem, they separate. You open the curtain and they're hugging. This has got to be the lowest point, the destruction of the Jews doing what Hashem wanted. So the answer, I think, is very, very deep. The answer is that there's two different kinds of hugs. There's not a hug and separate. There are three choices. There's a hug, separate, and another hug. The first hug is the hug of the people of children, the people who are innocent and good and doing everything they should. You feel like a hero, and you want to give hugs. You want to care. You want to save. You want to encourage. You want to put your arms around someone. You want to pat them on the back. You want to wipe away their tears. You want to be the hero. That's when you're doing well, when you're dancing in your garden. And then when things aren't going so well, and you failed, and you've eaten from the trees, and you've made your mistakes, then we curl up into a little ball and we separate. I'm not a hero. I'm not saving anybody. Nobody's interested in me. Nobody wants me. And we pull away. When you don't do the will of Hashem, you're separate. But you know what happens? Eventually it gets so bad and so lonely and so terrible. It grows. And when you're hiding, what happens when you hide? When you're hiding, you're alone and you have no friends and no one cares. Eventually the pain gets so great that you beg for a hug. Not the hug of a hero, I want to hold you. It's hug me, hold me. Look, please hold me. That's the second hug. There are two different hugs. There's the hug of the hero, vibrant, enthusiastic, let me hold you. And then there's the hug of hold me. And that's what happens by the churban. Yes, when you do wrong, you separate. But when you separate so far, you get so dark and so scary, then save me. There's two people who hold each other. The happy, innocent people, and then the broken, lost people. Unfortunately, most people in the world spend their entire lives in the middle. We're not innocent and good and pure enough to feel our place is to go be a hero and save people and give hugs. But we're not broken enough and sad enough to beg someone to hold me. We live our lives 80, 90 years in between those two hugs, gritting our teeth with a stiff upper lip, stoic, coping with our pain, never getting good enough to hug or bad enough to be hugged. And that's where we live. Now, pain of loneliness. These are the two different hugs. So this is why we say, you know, I'm sure you've all heard the phrase that Misha Nichnas Adar Marb B'Simcha, when the month of Adar comes, we increase joy. And when the month of Av comes, the month of Tisha B'Av, the month of Av, we minimize joy, Matin B'Simcha. And this is the secret of it. The whole purpose of the Torah is for you to dream and to live your life, to go hug. And instead, we're sitting there curled up into a ball. So there's two cures. One is build the guy up, make him a little more confident, make him a little happier, like Chodesh Adar, the month of Adar. You drink a little bit, and what happens when you drink? You go, you put your arms out, everyone's running around Purim hugging. One way to get people to hug is to increase their joy. Another way to get people to hug is to push. Sometimes he's so in the dark that you push him further into the dark and make him sadder. And in the sadness, he'll say, hug me. These are the two ways to get people to hug. Because the only place you don't want to be is to be in the middle. The person who's hugging, so in the month of Adar, we make joy, we make everyone happy, we singing and dancing, and everybody, hopefully people will hug. People will reach out to each other. But if that doesn't work, a few months later, we get Chodesh Adar, Chodesh Av. And in Chodesh Av, we increase your sadness. We read lamentations and kinos. And why? Because we want to cause you pain? No. Nobody wants anyone to suffer. But if we can get you to feel the pain, then you'll cry out, hold me. If we can push you to the bottom, you'll scream for help. And you know what happens when you scream for help? What was my question is, how do I get you out of the brokenness? You know what the answer is? We push you deeper in, and when the pain, and when you scream, hold me, when the tears come, that's the nechama. Do you know what the first time somebody feels good is? When they have their good cry. When they let the tears come. All the pain in the world is in the middle. When you're gritting your teeth. When you allow the pain to go its distance. And you allow the person to feel it. That's already the first nechama. What does it mean, nachamu, nachamu? Is we need you to feel. Feeling is living. Crying is as much alive as the giggling of a child. Both people are living in reality. You can live in reality, bouncing and giggling, or sorrowfully crying with that deepest, from the depth of your being, the wail. And they both feel real. And there's a joy in being real. And the pain, the bachai sivka, the chet chata, the sin you sin, leads to tears and tears. And that is the nechama. As soon as you cry, if Tisha B'Av did its job, and it pushed you, the enemy is not pain. The enemy is the gritting the teeth. That the enemy is that when you can find a place where the bushes. You found a place to hide where you're avoiding your pain. And you can live there sometimes 80, 90 years and have nothing. The comfort of Tisha B'Av is to get you to cry. Because tears are comforting. And then when you cry and you feel the tears, you know what happened then? You lived again. And you're right back at your watering hole. You're right back at the window. You're right back at your dreams. We didn't get you there by hugging you and building you up into a hugger. You got there from the sorrow of needing the hug. But if you got there, you got there. Go play it out in your mind. If you're living in the pain and you figured out how to roll your eyes at the world and how to sneer at everyone, and you're jaded and sarcastic and skeptical and biting, and you know how to rain on everybody's parade, and you know how to laugh and scoff at every chuppah and every baby, and you learned how to make fun of the world, oh, what a wonderful place to live. That's the bushes. It's a lot of different bushes. Nobody lives in one, but together we all have all those bushes I just listed. And you live in those bushes, and you want, because you're broken and you're a churban, the building of your personal temple is in shambles. Your temple is your longings and your dreamings, the offerings that you were going to offer to God, and the place, the idea that you walked in sensitively in your temple, and now your temple's in shambles because you're hiding in the bushes of sarcasm and sneering. You've perfected the eye roll. You know, like you learned how to say whatever, nothing, everything's foolish. The cure is to let the tears come, and those tears comfort you, because the second you cry, there's a joy in tears. If you haven't felt it, you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you were zocha this year to get there, or any time in your life to get there, then you know exactly the joy of Tisha B'Av. This is what it means when we say, Kol mis'abel al Yerushalayim, anyone who mourns over Jerusalem, zoche v'roeh, he merits to see in b'simchasa, in its joy. Literally then, if you will mourn, then you will have the joy. It's not a reward, you're going to get points and God's going to cash into you. You did a good deed and Hashem's going to pay you back. If you let yourself feel, then you're a feeler. The secret to feeling joy is to feel pain. Nachamu, nachamu. The nechama is, the comfort is when you feel the pain of the churban, you feel hope again. And when you feel hope again, then you can enter your life and have the real nechama, all the happiness of your life. You can go to all the simchas again and all the chuppahs, and you can, just like you broke, so you became invested in the pain, but so too but now that you're a feeler again, now you're back to longing. So now you can go to a wedding. Now you can go on another date. Now you can open that business. Now you can do all the things you dreamt of. The first nachamu was forced on you, or hopefully you were encouraged into it, or whatever. You did it on your terms, but you got to the place of tears, and then you'll feel this rush, this feeling of living again. You feel like water in a parched desert. You'll feel like your skin coming to life. You're living. And as soon as you feel like that, the first thought's your pain and how sad you are. But the next thought will be longing and dreams. Your dreams will come rushing into the door, like they've been knocking on it forever, and they were on the outside of the door without any key, dreaming of coming in. But the ability to cry those tears, you threw the door open and everything comes rushing in. Chet chata, the first chet is a small chet, and the second chet is that you hide forever. And the nechama, the first nechama is the small nechama. You unravel it. And the second nechama is all the dreams come back because you've let yourself feel again. And that's how you rebuild your own temple. Let me end with a short thought to talk about Tu B'Av for a few moments. The 15th day of Av. In order to understand the 15th day, you see, the 15th day of a month is a very important day, because in a month that's 29 and a half days. The 15th day is, every month has a trait, and the trait builds with the moon. The new moon is a sliver, and then it grows. And the 15th day of the month, the moon is full. So the 15th day of any month is the peak of the month. And then it begins, it's 29 and a half days, the cycle of the earth, the moon around the earth. So the 15th day is the peak when it begins to wane. The moon grows and grows and grows, becomes full, and then it begins to shrink, and then the next month, the first day, the new moon pops up, and then it starts to grow again. So the 15th day of the month is the strongest day of that trait. So we have to know the trait of every month to understand the significance of the 15th day. The problem is, months are very difficult, because normally if I want to understand things in the world, what they're about, we look back at the story of creation, and we look at the roots of that aspect of my life. Where did it come from? And then you get insights of how it started. Everything can only be understood by knowing what its purpose was, where it came from, where it began. To define things without knowing its source is always difficult. You need to plot all the points on the journey. So normally the way we do it in Jewish thought is we have something called the 10 utterances. God created the world with 10 let there be's, right? Let there be light, let there be a firmament, let there be fish, let there be flowers. Hashem says let there be. There are 7 days, but 10 asara ma'amaros, 10 statements. And so we understand that everything in the world has its roots in one of those 10. And that's why there are 10 commandments. The 10 commandments are the perfect way to live, understanding the 10 aspects of life. And the 10 plagues are what happens when you don't live properly. It's a very neat picture. The 10 utterances are the potential of the world, 10 categories. Perfected, they're the Torah, commandments, destroyed, they're the plagues. The problem with this is, it becomes difficult to understand the things in the world. Not everything's neatly with 10s. I just gave you the neat 10s. But what do you do with the things in creation that are built on 12s? There are 12 tribes. There are 12 months. So how do those 12 tribes, how do those fit neatly into the 10 utterances? So I don't have time to do a whole share on this now, but let me just say this, that there really are 12 utterances. If you look at the story, the 10 are obvious, but Hashem says, let there be. And every time he says, let there be, he says that Hashem saw the light, and Vayar Hashem es ha'or ki tov, that it was good. He saw this, and it was good. This, and it was good. Right? That's the formula. God says, let there be X. X came to be. God saw the X, and he said, and God saw that it was good. So what's the 11th utterance? Figure it out yourself. The 10th utterance is, let there be man. So what did Hashem say after let there be man? What's the next thing Hashem says? The 11th utterance that God said in creation. Because he really said 12 things. What's the 11th utterance? I'll give you a hint. It's cooler when you get it yourself, right? The 11th utterance is, is not that God didn't say it was good on this one. Doesn't say it was good. Okay, the 11th utterance is Lo Tov Heyosad Levado. It is not good for man to be alone. 10 times God creates things and says it's good. Then he creates man and he says it's not good for man to be alone. That's the 11th utterance. And that, if you, right, we start counting from Nisan only because that was the first mitzvah the Jews got when they left Egypt. But before they left Egypt in creation, the first month is Tishrei. So if Tishrei is the first month, what's the 11th month? The month of Av. The month of Av is not good for man to be alone. That's the root of the month of Av. So if you want to understand the nature of the month of Av, you have to understand this idea. That Av is the month of it's not good for man to be alone. It's a month built for tragedy. It's the month of it's not good. All of our tragedies take place in Av. But not only do we know that this is the month that's not good, we know why. Because man is alone. Sinas chinam and hatred and division. The Torah is, in the smallest, most economical use of words, is telling us all of history. All of the pains of Chodesh Av, the temples, Holocaust, Inquisition, it's all because of one thing. It is not good for man to be alone. So what's the 12th utterance? The 11th utterance is the root of the month of Av, is it's not good for man to be alone. So what's the 12th utterance? What does God say in the Torah? The next thing he says, I will make a helpmate opposite him. And that's the root of the 12th month. The 11th month is the month of Av. It's not good for man to be alone. And the 12th month is the month of Elul. And Elul is the month of it. I will make a helpmate opposite him. It's the cure for being alone. Is the shidduch. And that's why the month of Elul is an acronym for Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. The whole idea of Chodesh Elul is the cure for being alone. The cure for being alone is a shidduch. If this is all understood, then it becomes very obvious what is going on the 15th day of Chodesh Av. If Chodesh Av is the month of loneliness, of separation, where it's not good, and the pain of loneliness, and the month of Elul is the togetherness of two people who found each other. Anil Dodi Dodi Li. So where does that happen? So the loneliest day of the entire year, the darkness of loneliness, is the 15th day of the month of Av, where it reaches its peak. And the second it reaches its peak is when the loneliness is the greatest. And if that loneliness can translate as to that groan, that primal groan that somehow unwillingly even escapes from the deepest parts of you, and it breaks that stoic, that gritted jaw, that those firm, tight lips. If somehow something sneaks out of it, this groan, then it's all good. It broke through. You got real. You weren't able to hide. You weren't able to suppress your dreams. They popped out. The darkest day, the loneliest day of the year, the 15th day of Av. The month of it's not good to be alone. The 15th, the full moon of that day. And that moment is the moment that gives birth to your shidduch. The oneness of the shidduch. Anila Dodi V'Dodi Li. Esalo Ezer Kinedal. Make a helpmate opposite you. Is born from the pain of the 15th day of Av. And that's our whole speech. The nechama, the comfort of the pain of all pain, but specifically the comfort of the pain of loneliness, only comes when the loneliness gets to you and you say, hold me. If you can get to the point where you say, hold me, then you can go back to your dried out riverbeds, and you can go on the dates and throw yourself. You don't have to protect yourself. You don't have to roll your eyes and say, who wants to get married? I don't care, and laugh at all the shidduchim. The secret is to throw yourself back into it. In order to throw yourself back into it, you have to feel the pain. And that's why Tu B'Av, the 15th day of Av, is the day of the Geula for Shidduchim. It's the holiday. Because the pain got you to the point where it forces you to let go of your masks and your hiding place. Listen, we all get good at that cynicism, and because that protects us. It's our mask. But Hashem has a lot of gifts, but the most valuable gift and the hardest gift is the gift of pain. Because how else does he get you to face your dreams if he doesn't get you to face feelings first? You can't dream if you're not feeling. And you can't feel if your whole life is protecting yourself. So do you understand that the chesed of Hashem and Hashem's mercy requires Him to chisel at the walls that we created around ourselves? Imagine how angry we get when Hashem starts chiseling away at those walls that we've protected ourselves with. But that's Hashem's mercy. Al Eitzim Va'avonim, that Hashem tore down our temple. It was all worth it if one Jew will moan. Because the Jew moans, then he's faced his feelings, and he's faced his feelings, he'll face his dreams. He's living again. And then that Jew will dance in Hashem's garden. But when our walls become masks and hiding places, our bushes are our walls. Oh, may we all be zoicha. Listen, the pain. I don't know, but the pain of all the singles is I don't know who has a right to talk about anybody's pain, but you have to feel it. You have to allow it to get into your deepest places. And if you're not screaming, tears aren't coming down, then you didn't get there yet. But as soon as the tears come, you've experienced the first nachamu, you're living again. And you'll feel alive. And then, once you're alive, you're going to go on a date and you're not going to protect yourself. You're not going to say sarcastic lines. You're not going to make fun of things. You're going to go there wide-eyed. You know, you're going to giggle at the person's jokes. You're going to be optimistic. And when someone's living and trusting Hashem, kindness surrounds him. When you innocently giggle and you're longing and you're doing, then everyone's going to love you. Everyone's going to want to marry you. But nobody wants to marry the dried out, stoic, stiff-lipped, rigid jaw. Nobody wants that. Everybody has their own things to hide from. They don't want to double their hiding places and to adopt your hidings also. They want someone that gives them a second lease on life. And that second lease of life today is to cry the tears of churban. And let those tears of churban allow you to feel the hot tears running down your face. Those tears mean you're alive. And when you're alive, then all your dreams come in also. Once you've torn down your walls. And everyone likes dreamers. Dreamers are exciting. Dreamers are mysterious. Dreamers are fun. Dreamers are optimistic, and everyone needs optimism. There's not a person who won't want to marry you, hire you, learn from you, be with friend, take you on a trip, go buy you. Everyone, whatever the role of life, your role of life is. You're selling, they're gonna buy. You're buying, they're gonna want to give you the best product. Everybody wants to be around the person who's dreaming. And the trip to dealing, the trip to dreaming, is being real. The shortcut to being real is to let the tears fall. May we be zoicha that we should feel our pain and experience all the blessings and all the brachas that come with that. May all of our dreams rush in, and may Hashem fulfill every last one of them. May Hashem wipe away the tears, and may those tears be the last tears that we ever have to shed. May all the rest of our face from now on be animated with wrinkles and wrinkles from smiling around our eyes and our mouths. As far as you should look at us and you should see like, wow, that guy must be smiling a lot. It's my bracha. All right. We should all have our redemptions. All have our